Locked in a library vault in America is a book that has defeated every codebreaker who has ever tried to read it, for over 100 years. It is written entirely in an alphabet no one has ever seen anywhere else, wrapped around drawings of plants that do not exist in nature. It is called the Voynich Manuscript, and for 100 years it has been called the world's most mysterious book. This is not a recreation. These are real pages, from the real manuscript, one of its actual folios of strange flowing script. Around 240 pages survive today, though scholars believe several more were once bound into the book and have since been lost. The surviving pages are written in a hand that never hesitates, never crosses out a mistake, as if the writer knew the script perfectly, the way you or I might write our own native alphabet without a second thought. The story of its discovery begins not in some ancient tomb, but in a Jesuit college outside Rome, in the year 1912. A Polish-American rare book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich was touring Europe, buying up old libraries being quietly sold off by cash-strapped religious institutions in the political upheaval of the time. Among a chest of old manuscripts, one caught his eye immediately, small, thick, covered in an alphabet he did not recognize, illustrated with the strangest drawings he had ever seen. He bought the whole collection just to get it, and spent the rest of his life, and a fortune, trying to find out what it truly was, corresponding with linguists and historians across Europe and America. It would carry his name ever since, a mystery permanently attached to the man who rescued it from obscurity. Modern science has since dated the vellum itself. Radiocarbon testing places its creation in the early 1400s, in the heart of the European Renaissance. So whatever it is not a modern forgery pretending to be old. The material itself is genuinely 600 years old. To understand why it has resisted every attempt to read it, you first have to see what is actually inside. The book falls into distinct sections. The first, and largest, is what scholars call the herbal section. Page after page shows plants in careful, colored detail, roots, stems, leaves and flowers, each one accompanied by dense blocks of the mysterious flowing text, arranged with the same care a real medieval herbal would use to catalogue medicinal plants. The trouble is, botanists have spent decades comparing these drawings against every known plant species in Europe, Asia, and even the Americas, and most of them match nothing that has ever grown on Earth. Some show composite plants, a root from one species fused to leaves from another and flowers from a third, as if built from mismatched pieces rather than observed carefully from real, living nature. It is exactly the kind of detail a forger might invent to avoid being caught by an expert, or the kind of memory a distracted illustrator might produce while copying from an older, now lost source. A second section is astronomical, or perhaps astrological. Circular diagrams fill entire fold-out pages, rings within rings of symbols radiating outward like elaborate star charts or zodiac wheels drawn by an unfamiliar hand. Tiny figures, mostly unclothed women, stand or sit inside some of these circles, holding stars, tucked into what look like barrels or tubs, for reasons nobody has ever convincingly explained, though guesses range from zodiac symbolism to some lost system of medical astrology. A third section is stranger still, page after page of small nude women, bathing in green pools connected by an intricate network of tubes, basins, and channels that seem to flow logically from one to the next, like plumbing diagrams from an entirely alien engineering tradition. Some researchers have guessed at a hidden anatomical or medical meaning, perhaps something related to bathing cures, herbal medicine, or even the female body itself. No explanation has ever been widely accepted by the wider academic community. A final section is often called the recipes section, hundreds of short paragraphs, each one marked at the margin with a small star, perhaps instructions, perhaps prayers, perhaps something else entirely that no modern reader has a category for. Whatever this book is, it was not thrown together carelessly. It has structure, sections, apparent purpose. Someone built this with real intention. For 400 years the book passed quietly through private hands, an alchemist's personal library, a Jesuit archive, a Roman college storeroom, each new owner apparently as baffled by it as the one before. One of its most famous owners, according to a letter later found tucked inside its cover, was Rudolph II, the Holy Roman Emperor, an obsessive collector of curiosities, clocks, and alchemical secrets from across the known world. Legend holds that Rudolph paid an enormous sum in gold ducats for it, believing it might contain the secrets of eternal life, the transmutation of metals, or the fabled philosopher's stone itself. If he ever learned what the book actually said, no record of it survives. It passed on, unread, like every owner before and after him. It was not until the 20th century that the book met its most formidable opponents, professional codebreakers. Some of the same minds who helped crack the German Enigma machine in the Second World War, professional military cryptanalysts trained to find patterns in noise, later turned their considerable attention to the Voynich script. They brought statistics to the problem, counting letters, measuring how often certain symbols repeated, hunting for the fingerprint of a real language. And they found something genuinely strange. The text behaves statistically like a real, spoken and written language, not like random scribbles thrown together purely to look convincing at a glance. Word lengths, letter frequencies, even a kind of internal grammar and word pairing behavior, all resemble patterns found in genuine human languages, living or dead, in a way that pure random gibberish almost never manages to fake convincingly. Computers joined the search in the decades that followed, testing the text against hundreds of known languages, ciphers, and coding systems, running statistical comparisons no human scholar could ever manage by hand. Not one of those attempts has ever produced a translation that survives serious scrutiny. Every proposed solution, no matter how promising it looked at first, has eventually fallen apart under closer, more skeptical examination. And yet, every few years, headlines announce a new breakthrough. A historian, a linguist, an amateur, each claiming to have finally cracked the code. So far, every single one of those announcements has quietly collapsed once other scholars checked the details. So what are the real possibilities? Serious researchers tend to gather around three main theories. The first is that it is an elaborate and very early hoax, meant to fool a wealthy buyer with meaningless but convincing-looking script. A skilled scribe could, in principle, generate convincing pseudo-text using simple repeating grammatical rules, enough to fool a casual buyer's eye without the text meaning anything at all underneath it. The trouble with the hoax theory is effort. Whoever made this filled 240 pages with consistent, structured text and elaborate hand-painted illustrations, an enormous investment of time and rare materials, for a payoff, a wealthy buyer, that was never actually guaranteed to appear. The second theory is that it is a genuine, unknown spoken language, perhaps a regional dialect never otherwise written down anywhere else, recorded here in its own carefully invented alphabet by someone determined to preserve it. The third is that it is a private cipher, invented by its author for reasons we may never know, and never shared with another living soul. A private code, by its very nature, is designed to die with its creator. If that is genuinely what happened here, no amount of modern computing power, no matter how advanced it eventually becomes, will ever be able to crack it, because there is simply no key left anywhere in the world to find. There is a fourth possibility some researchers take seriously, that it is a real medical or herbal manual, written in an invented shorthand purely for the author's own private use. Medieval physicians sometimes guarded their recipes jealously, inventing private notations and abbreviations precisely so rival healers could never simply steal their hard-won methods and remedies. If true, the fantastical composite plants and strange diagrams might simply be disguises, deliberate camouflage layered carefully over otherwise ordinary, practical medical knowledge worth protecting. Whatever the truth, the manuscript's journey after Wilfrid Voynich is its own story of near loss and quiet survival. After Voynich died in 1930, the book passed to his wife Ethel, then years later to a trusted friend and fellow book dealer, then finally, in 1969, it was donated outright to Yale University's Rare Book Library. There it remains today, catalogued as manuscript number 408, climate-controlled, and now fully digitized, every single page available for anyone in the world to study from their own home. That digitization changed everything about how the book could be studied. No longer did a researcher need to travel across an ocean and formally beg for rare, limited access to the fragile physical original. Anyone with an internet connection can now zoom into every brushstroke, every faded letter, at a resolution the original owners never had. That openness has turned the Voynich Manuscript into one of the single most examined documents on the planet, and still, after all of that scrutiny, the words on its pages refuse to speak. Universities now host regular academic conferences purely devoted to the manuscript, drawing linguists, historians, professional cryptographers, and hopeful, self-taught amateurs alike, all sitting in the same room as equals before the same unsolved problem. Each arrive certain they will be the one to finally solve it. So far, the book has outlasted every one of them. It is worth asking why a book this strange has captured public imagination the way it has, far beyond academic circles. Part of it is simple, honest mystery. Human beings are drawn to locked doors, and this may be the single most stubbornly locked door in the entire history of writing itself. Part of it is the art itself. Even without a single word ever successfully translated, the strange composite plants and circular star charts remain genuinely, undeniably beautiful to simply look at. And part of it may be a kind of comfort in an age when nearly everything can be looked up in seconds. Here is one genuine mystery machines cannot simply solve. Modern artificial intelligence has already been turned loose on the problem too, trained on hundreds of known languages living and extinct, hunting patiently for any hidden statistical match buried in the text. So far, it has fared no better than the generations of human code breakers who came before it. The manuscript has resisted raw computational brute force just as thoroughly as it once resisted decades of patient, careful human scholarship. Perhaps that ongoing resistance is itself a kind of quiet answer, a reminder that not everything ever written by human hands was ever meant to be quickly or efficiently decoded by anyone. Or perhaps the answer really is simple, and we are all missing some small, obvious key that will one day make the whole book fall open at once. Until that day, if it ever comes, the book keeps its own counsel, exactly as it has for 600 years. Its unknown author, whoever they truly were, achieved something remarkable, almost certainly without ever intending to: true, lasting, seemingly unbreakable privacy across 6 centuries. In an age when nearly every secret imaginable is eventually dug up, decoded, hacked, or leaked to the world, this one has simply, quietly refused to give itself away to anyone. Some historians suspect we may already have every single tool we could possibly need to solve it, and are simply missing the one right question nobody has thought to ask yet. Others suspect the eventual answer, whenever it finally comes, will feel almost disappointingly small and mundane compared to the centuries of grand speculation that came before it. Either way, the patient search continues, in university linguistics departments, in scattered amateur online forums, in quiet evenings spent staring at high-resolution photographs of 600-year-old ink. The Voynich Manuscript asks for nothing from us. It simply sits, patient, unread, in its climate-controlled vault, exactly as it has for a century. And every single day, somewhere in the world, someone quietly opens a digital copy of its pages on their own screen and tries again from scratch, certain that this time, finally, will be different. Perhaps one of them will succeed. Or perhaps the world's most famous unread book will keep its secret for another 600 years.